everybody's diabetes is different. Every patient brings their own challenges with them, their own strengths, their own weaknesses. It may be the same disease state, but it may have different manifestations in every person.
Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, where our goal is to keep you informed, inspired, and a little entertained on all things diabetes. The information contained in this program is based on the experience and opinions of the Integrated Diabetes Services clinical team. Please discuss any changes to your treatment plan with your personal healthcare provider before implementing. Welcome to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. I'm your host, Gary Scheiner, and my special guest today is Dr. Koch. Cheryl is a board-certified endocrinologist, board-certified in internal medicine. She was named a top doc by Philadelphia Magazine last year, and she is a diabetes specialist. Some endos dabble in a lot of different stuff, but she is diabetes focused. And she is the chief of endocrinology at Bryn Mawr Hospital, part of Mainline Health System here in the Philadelphia area. So I recognize the title of today's program is Meet Gary's Endo. I just want you all to know that we're not here to do a deep probe into my own diabetes management, although we may discuss that a little bit towards the end. But really want to talk about what it takes to build a successful patient-provider relationship. I think that's something that we could all benefit from. Anyway, Dr. Koch, tell the folks at home a little more about yourself.
Well, first of all, Gary, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to sit and chat with you today, and I'm honored. I was born and raised here in suburban Philadelphia. I feel honored to be able to practice in the community where I grew up. I'm a graduate of Haverford High School. I went to Pennsylvania University College of Medicine in Hershey for my medical school and did my internal medicine and endocrinology training at the University of Maryland and in Baltimore, and then came home to start my practice. I've been in practice at my present practice for 23 years and in practice in the area for 30 years. Husband is from this area. I have 2 children and a grandson.
Wonderful. Important question, since you spent a fair amount of time out in Hershey. Is it really the sweetest place on earth?
It is indeed the sweetest place on earth. And in my apartment where I lived while I was in medical school, the building was right across the street from the Reese's peanut butter cup factory. So often I would walk out in the morning to the smell of the peanuts roasting. And then if the wind was blowing the right direction, you could smell the chocolate from the factory. So yes, it is the sweetest place on earth.
Wow, what a way to start the day, smelling chocolate and peanut butter. So Dr. Koch's been my endocrinologist for nearly 20 years now, and she even filled in as my primary care provider recently when mine left practice and I was waiting to go see a new one. Back in the day, she made some guest appearances at our insulin pump support group here in Philly. Back when insulin pump therapy was really unique and people on pumps like to get together and share their tips and tricks. And she shared a lot of valuable insights with our pumpers about preventing long-term complications and just, living well long-term with diabetes. So, Dr. Koch, why did you decide to enter the field of endocrinology?
Well, it was not my original choice. As I was rotating through the various specialties of internal medicine, I was really intrigued by all the various disease states, if you will, that the endocrinologists encountered and all the different kinds of organ systems that the hormonal diseases encompass. They were a nice bunch of people. It was a fun rotation for me to do as a medical student. And then as a medical resident, when I had my choice about, what subspecialties I wanted to do my electives in, I chose endocrinology because I thought, well, at least these people have fun. I'll have fun for an entire month. And the diseases were interesting to me. So I liked critical care medicine. I did a lot of critical care medicine at University of Maryland. But then when I was trying to decide how I would spend my career, the issues of lifestyle were important to me. Having a family was important to me, and being present for my children was going to be an important thing for me. And since endocrinology is more outpatient than hospital based, although there is some hospital work we've done as well, I decided to pursue endocrinology because I really loved the subject matter, and I felt that it was a discipline which would match my goals well in terms of my work career and balancing a family.
You mentioned lifestyle. So, in what ways are you able to incorporate lifestyle teaching into the treatment you provide?
Well, so in terms of diabetes management, I like to tell my patients that diet and exercise and medications are a three-legged stool. And you know what happens to a three-legged stool when you cut off one of the legs. Diet and exercise are
Mm.
the foundational treatment of diabetes. So it's nice to have a field that allows me more time than I might have in other disciplines to take care of myself, to eat well, and to
Mhm.
spend the time I need to spend exercising.
What's what's your preferred form of exercise?
I walk. I walk a lot. I've had a couple of injuries which prevent me from running very well, so I don't try to do that anymore, although I did run when I was younger. But now I spend a lot of time walking. I have enjoyed swimming in the past, but don't have regular access to a pool. I swim when I can, and I lift things. In the course of working around the house and so forth, I try to make sure I'm getting training. But it would be better if I did resistance training at a gym, but I lift things around the house.
Honestly, a lot of the patients that I see who are interested in strength training, we
Hmm.
start them out just using household objects,
Right.
rolls of pennies, cans,
Soup
bottles.
cans,
I
bricks.
remember when COVID started. Yeah. When COVID started, I usually lift 2 or 3 days a week, and the gym's all closed. So I went into my backyard and my garage and just collected buckets of bricks and rocks, and I took bottles, put sand in them, and I got a whole set of weights in the basement just made out of crap from my backyard.
Hmm.
So you can use anything
You
to
can use
build up
anything.
strength.
You don't need
Yeah.
fancy equipment.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
a lot of endocrinologists bemoan the fact that it's one of the not only lowest paid of the specialties in medicine, but also is in most demand and end up putting in long hours. And do you find that is it what it's cracked up to be? Has it allowed you to find that work-life balance that you sought?
The most part, it has. I think being a physician, by definition, if you're going to do a good job, you do spend a lot of time not only seeing patients in the office, but reviewing lab work, doing prior authorizations for medications with insurance companies, and a lot of the work that is necessary behind the scenes. I'm not in the hospital at night. I go home and I'm able to spend that time with my family. It's been a good career. It's a subject matter that I love. I love the variety of patients that I see, from young people to very old people and everything in between. Women in childbearing years, women going through menopause, men at every phase of life. I really enjoy the variety of different people that I see, and the variety of different problems that they come with. So it's been a
Yeah,
good career. Yeah.
variety is definitely valuable when you work a lot because, yeah, you get doing the same thing over and over and over again becomes really monotonous.
Well, one thing I can say is that I'm never bored in my job. And even though I may see a whole host of people on a given day who are coming with diabetes, everybody's diabetes is different. Every patient brings their own challenges with them, their own strengths, their own weaknesses. It may be the same disease state, but it may have different manifestations in every person. And that's where the challenge is when you're trying to help people navigate all that. Realize that Everyone's diabetes is different. This is what I tell my patients all the time. Some people come in and talk about their siblings who have the same disease, and I tell them your diabetes is yours, and we have to approach it the best way for you and not worry about what your sister's doing because hers is hers.
Very true. So, what have you had to do to make sure your practice stays current? Because obviously the technology is updating so quickly, not just the devices, but also the software, the medications, and also the treatment methods. So, can you give me some examples of things you've done
Well,
to keep your office up
sure.
to date?
So when I first started in practice, we had NPH, lente, and ultra lente insulin. We had regular insulin. Humalog was the first insulin analog to come out that the first year I was in practice. We had the sulfonylureas. That was pretty much it. Metformin became available the first year I was in practice. So technology has changed. Insulin pumps were big boxes and there was nothing smart about them. Patients had to manage them themselves. And with fingerstick glucose testing, there were no continuous glucose monitors. So all of this has been a process of self-education since I've been in practice. So we try to read the literature. We read about new drugs that are available. We read about new research that's being done. And we try to incorporate advances into our practice. When we had fingerstick glucose meters, once the companies started making software to record the results of those testing, loaded that software into our computers, and we used it in the office so we could download people's glucose meters instead of looking at their numbers recorded on a page to free them up from having to do all that
Yeah.
recording. And, now that when the continuous glucose monitors became available, we did the same thing. We have the software for all of them so we can download all of them in the office. New drugs that become available, new
I was impressed.
technology.
Your assistant, when I came in last time, immediately asked for my login information from my pump and my sensor so that she could generate reports.
Yes,
I was impressed by that. I'm like you. I remember the days where the patients would bring in their log books or log sheets that
right,
had, they had chocolate smears and blood smears on them, and
right,
half of it was illegible. But if I
right.
knew if it was legible and neat, it was all made up. So
And people
now we
did
can
do
get
that.
accurate.
Sometimes people falsified their results, and there's less of that now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
harder to do now.
it is harder to do.
Yeah, so, I mean, diabetes care, I think of diabetes care, it is a two-way street. It's a partnership really between, the patient and their provider or their doctor. So, what suggestions do you have for patients to help them get the most out of their time with their endocrinologist?
Firstly, I would say come with as much data as you have. Lab work that you've had done. If you test, your glucose is at home, bring those results, bring your meter, bring your CGM. Come with questions, things that are challenging you, things that are frustrating you, things that you're worried about in terms of impact on your health. Realize that the doctor is a human being also, and realize that time is short. So it's probably not reasonable to expect that you're going to come with an entire page of questions and to have them all be answered in a 15 or 20-minute session. Although maybe your doctor's a superstar and can answer all your questions and do everything in that time period. But if you come with one or two things to the visit that are very important for you, that you are concerned about, that you want to ask about, ask your questions. Show your doctor that you are concerned about your health and you're doing everything that is possible for you to do to take care of yourself, that you're interested in your self-care. Sometimes even a little bit of effort in an area that your doctor has asked you to make a change, even if you think you can't make a huge change, if you've made a small change. That the small change will go a long way to to helping. Sometimes people think that they have to make huge dramatic changes in their lifestyle, and sometimes they don't. If they can make a tiny change and keep those changes going, then they look back 1 or 2 years and they see how much they've actually changed and how much progress that they've made. On the other hand, too, the doctor needs to show interest in the person. It's not just a patient with a case. It's a human being that's trying to live with diabetes and trying to navigate the healthcare system that's sometimes difficult and trying to live well. And as you said, it is a partnership. It's a two-way street. There needs to be a level of trust built, and that trust then builds upon itself to create a long-term relationship that sometimes can exceed the bounds of doctor-patient and become a true friendship and a true partnership. That's what happens over years.
Is there sometimes a benefit to someone leaving their endocrinologist and seeking a new one?
Absolutely. Feel strongly that a person who's a patient who is seeking help with a problem needs to feel that the person that they're talking to as the physician is interested in them and has their well-being in heart and can communicate well with them. If a person feels like the communication is falling flat somehow, or somehow the personalities don't mesh, it's important, I think, to find a person that you can connect with for the long haul.
I've had many patients over the years who express dissatisfaction with their providers for one reason or another. A lot of times it's because their physician isn't supporting their interests, whether it
Right.
be for a certain type of device or medication. Um, and yeah, I always tell them, well, ask for an explanation. There may be a very good reason that they're not supportive of something, but they do need to explain it to you. And I tell them if they won't explain it to you or you're not satisfied with their explanation, then it's probably time to find somebody new.
Yes, and I think people are more likely to try to do something is that which they might find difficult if they have had an explanation of why it's important to do that. And explaining takes time. It also takes effort to translate medical lingo into language that a person can understand. And that takes effort. I think it's important for a patient to find a physician who's willing to take the effort to explain things in a way that makes sense to them. Because the patient is the
Yeah.
person who has to live with the condition that they have and needs to understand what they need to do to manage it well. And it's the doctor is charged with the education of the person. That's part of what we do. We educate people. We should be educating people.
How much use do you make of ancillary providers like diabetes care and education specialists or CDEs, as we used to be?
Yes, DDEs can be a very important partner in teaching regarding for diet, carbohydrate counting, which is a difficult topic that a lot of people are um, intimidated by, frankly, I think. It can help in terms of managing medications, including insulin. Can help when the doctor is limited with time in the office because the CDE then has more time that they can spend with the patient to go through explanations of things so that the patient can actually grasp or feel comfortable with a skill like insulin injection, for example.
Okay, great. All right. Well, let's change the topic a little bit to one of my favorite topics, me. And I want you to be open and honest here. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not going to fire you. So a couple of things I want you to share. So you and I have worked together for a long time.
Yes, we
Both
have.
professionally and personally, we've worked together, and I've
Yes.
really enjoyed and benefited from the relationship we've had. What do you see as areas I need to work?
Well, so let me say this, that we're all human. I will say that doctors and nurses, I think,
Oh,
make the
here it
worst.
comes. Here it
Doctors and
comes.
nurses make the worst patients,
Anyone,
and
someone starts a sentence, then it says, "No offense, but here it." Go ahead.
no, I think it's a real. We are human, and just because we're helping other people manage their own medical conditions. You, for example, you have diabetes and you're helping other people with diabetes learn how to live with diabetes and manage it successfully. But you are a human being and have human foibles, just like every other human being does. So, and experience the same challenges, I think, as any other person does in terms of, okay, you know what? There's a soft pretzel there and it's warm. It just came out of the oven and I would really like to have that right now.
Wait, a soft pretzel? Where?
So I think it's a struggle to always practice what we preach to people. We do our best. But, and I'm not saying you do this. I think that people's relationship with food is probably a huge challenge that all of us struggle with. Stress eating, for example. Or, somebody brings a real nice goodie into the office and we've had a really hard day and we want it. We just want that brownie. And I'm including myself in this with you because I am wanting to point it out. I think that just because we're caregivers and we provide care doesn't mean we don't struggle with the same issues that our patients do because we're human.
Well,
Yeah. So, I think you do a pretty good job taking care of yourself, but sometimes you're really busy. And sometimes when you're running around, your glucose control is going to be more erratic. I think I've seen that when I've looked at your tracings. And to make time for all your preventative stuff, that's something we all struggle with. Making time for our own care when we're trying to do what we need to do for our jobs and our families. And oh man, I didn't call to
mhm.
schedule that eye appointment. Oh, I need to do that. And 3 weeks later, oh man, I need to schedule that eye appointment. I need to call to do that. You know, this is what we all struggle with.
You have a way of putting things that don't sound like an insult, but you put it in a very constructive way. I mean, that's the nicest way I've ever heard someone say, "Gary, your diet sucks."
Well,
I
sometimes I can
know it
say, Gary, your
does.
diet sucks, but I think I need to convey to you honestly that I understand why your diet sucks at times. And I think that's
Yeah,
important as
well,
for me as a provider to let my patients know that I understand what they deal with because I deal with the same thing.
yeah, I mean, you're right. It doesn't help to make people feel small and make them feel guilty because it just makes matters worse.
Yes.
So, yeah, and you've been very helpful in helping me find ways to manage my food intake better through, some of the medication options that are out there.
Mhm.
And it's really
Mhm.
made a difference for me.
Mhm.
What do you think are my strengths when it comes to my diabetes management? I need an ego built.
Well, I do think that you really do understand glycemic control very well and all the things that impact that. I think your training as an exercise physiologist and your commitment to your daily workouts and your is a strength. You're a great exerciser. I think the exercise can really for dietary indiscretions at times. So kudos for you to
You, you,
you
you
for your physical fitness and your commitment to that.
Your phraseology is just beautiful. Dietary indiscretions instead of eating like bleep. Very nicely. I appreciate that. So I do have to ask, when you know I'm coming in for an appointment, you see your schedule for the day, do you ever want to just go home, pretend you're sick and go home early?
Never ever. And I'm not lying when I say that. Never ever. No, I've enjoyed our
'Cause
collaboration and I enjoy our relationship. And
I always throw a
I
lot of
see
weird
my
stuff at you.
job as to keep you out of trouble for the long haul, help keep you out of trouble. So yes, I welcome our visits and I like seeing your name on the schedule.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Any last words of advice for our Think Like a Pancreas podcast audience? This is your chance to spread your decades of experience and wisdom to our listeners.
Well, so I would encourage people to see their doctor regularly. Don't avoid going to an office visit because you think you've messed up, because the person there is there to help you. And I think it's more important to go if you feel like you've messed up, or if you feel like you're struggling, or if you feel like diabetes is a hard thing to have and you just don't want to do it another day. It's important at those times to go to see the person who is there to be your support system in part, your advocate in part, and who may know you after so many years well enough to know what to say to pick you up a little bit and make you feel like, okay, I can do this for one more day. Don't avoid going to see the doctor. Our jobs are to help you be healthy for the long haul and escape complications, navigate health issues that may crop up that are unexpected, and don't avoid going. You don't have to be perfect to come see your physician. In fact, we know you're not perfect. Otherwise, you wouldn't be human. So that's my
Well
advice.
said. Very well said. So let me just do a kind of a quick wrap up. To be an endocrinologist requires years of training and sacrifice, and people who are endocrinologists are passionate individuals. They have a true interest in diabetes as well as all of the other endocrine disorders that can occur. And endocrinologists still, they're not, they should be preaching that lifestyle remains a mainstay in diabetes care and management. It's more than just the glucose values and the tech. The lifestyle that we lead does matter. To get the most out of the services of your endocrinologist, try to bring as much data and reports as you can to your appointments. Bring questions, not a gazillion questions. Bring, maybe your top 2 or 3 and ask them during the appointment. Don't forget your doctor is human, just like you. So have reasonable expectations about what they can provide for you. Care about yourself. Your doctor can't do all of the caring about your diabetes. You got to show that you're engaged and you're interested and care about it too. And be prepared to make small changes, even if larger issues are present. Like if your diet sucks, like me, I'm working right now. I'm just trying not to snack at night. I'm just working on that time frame. And 3 days so far, and I've survived, and it's really helped. But also expect your endocrinologist to show interest in you. They should communicate with you openly, honestly, and in a way you can understand. And if you don't have that good rapport with your endocrinologist, you can't all go see mine. She's a busy person, but do look for somebody else. So hopefully that provides a good wrap up. And Dr. Koch, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule, both personally and professionally, to join us today. We'll have some links in the show notes about the provider-patient relationship that you can all check out. So I'm Gary Scheiner, and reminding everyone out there to keep thinking like a pancreas.
Thanks for tuning in to Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, is brought to you by Integrated Diabetes Services, where experience meets expertise, passion meets compassion, and diabetes care is personal because we live it too. Our team of clinicians, all living with type 1 diabetes, understands the challenges firsthand. We're here to help no matter where you are in the world. From glucose management to self-care strategies, the latest tech, sports and exercise, weight loss, type 1 pregnancy, and emotional well-being, we've got you covered. We offer consultations in English and Spanish via phone, video chat, email, and text. Want to learn more? Visit integrateddiabetes.com or email info@integrateddiabetes.com to schedule a consultation. On behalf of Think Like a Pancreas, the podcast, I'm Gary Scheiner, wishing you a fantastic week ahead. And don't forget to think like a pancreas.